Hey everyone, this is Christopher Luxon, the former CEO of Air New Zealand.
This is John Lee Dumas, the founder and host of Entrepreneurs on Fire.
This is Tracy Ibarra. I'm in Executive Solutions at Dell Technologies.
This is Travis Chappell, founder of Build Your Network. If you are wanting to learn how to embrace change,
To navigate through disruption as a leader,
Then listen to the Leadership is Changing podcast.
The Leadership is Changing podcast.
the Leadership is Changing podcast with my good friend,
my very good friend, Denis Giannoutsos.
Welcome to Leadership is Changing. Each week, we and our guests provide information and insights through exploring leading change. This is taking your leadership to another level by finding the balance between executive excellence and personal well-being through stories that inspire real change. It's time to adapt in our fast-moving world when leadership is changing with your host, Denis Giannoutsos.
Hey, welcome to the show, Leadership is Changing. What we as leaders know to be true is that change is constant. Leaders everywhere confront similar obstacles because people are people, but everywhere you go, leaders are overwhelmed, disrupted, and under pressure. They run from email to email, meeting to meeting. Many leaders are not changing quick enough, which means they run the risk of becoming irrelevant and being left behind. The purpose of the show is taking our listeners' leadership to another level, by finding the balance between executive excellence and personal well-being through stories that inspire real change. I believe we don't have enough effective leaders in the world today, and if we can get the leaders to step up and lead change, then they can inspire real change. Hey listeners, it's now time to adapt in our fast-moving world, and I want to welcome you to the Ask Denis episode that I have here. This is a freestyle episode whereby I'm asked a question by our listeners, or I share my thoughts, insights, and experiences from working with leaders around the globe. Hey listeners, welcome, and I want to just encourage you, if you haven't already done so, to check out the Facebook group, Leadership is Changing, and join the community there. And we have a great time there, just sharing some different insights and thoughts and so forth. So feel free to check out that Facebook group, Leadership is Changing. Today I want to talk to you about life gives you lemons, it's time to get tough. Now, what do I mean by this? Well, many leaders, people are facing hard times. Yes, we've got a pandemic happening at the moment around the world, but people face hard times all the time. There are various things that get thrown at us in life. There are certain lemons that are given to us in life, as we say it. And that it's not just in the pandemic period of time, it's always happening for us. Now, there are things that are out of our control. There are lots of people who worry or get concerned about things, but they realize later that it's outside of their control. But some of them continue to still worry about that. But you know what? What's in your control are two things: your attitude and the way you react to things. And number two is where you're going next. So number one was the attitude and the way you react to things. See, if we show up and we react to things in a different way, in a more positive way, it's quite interesting to see what happens. But if we have an attitude that's more pessimistic or more doom and gloom, then it's also we get different outcomes as well. It's quite interesting to look at various teams and leaders and so forth. And I grew up in the coffee industry, and, I used to see whereby there would be a person or a manager or leader would come into a cafe, and the whole cafe would just there would be a buzz, and this cafe would actually just really fly. It's the same with other teams and large corporates and things like that. I see a leader come on board, and you'll see that team really move forward, high performing, doing really well, and it's just been fantastic to see them move on. Now, there are other scenarios whereby you'll see a manager go into a cafe or take over a team in a large corporate, whatever that scenario is, and the leader has a different kind of mindset. The leader may not be more of a multiplier, but they may be more of a diminisher. They are very controlling and so forth, and doesn't allow people to fly. And so what's quite interesting here is that how do we handle that, and what do we do? What do we do as leaders to look at where we're going and what's in our control? So number one is our attitude and the way that we react to things. Number 2 is where we are going next, as I said before. The going next is really quite interesting. Going next could be where you're going into your next role, could be your next business, it could be your new country, it could be something that you're deciding to do to move forward. Now, I always say that actually takes leadership. That's change. And all of us go through change. But then there's another skill set, which is A, you go through change, but B, you lead the change. And if you can lead the change, that's what's really key. We need leaders in this world to lead change. We need leaders when they are faced with lemons to get tough, step up, and move forward. That's what we need today. The saying of life gives us lemons is quite interesting because if you think about a lemon and you cut it and then you suck on the lemon, it can be quite, there's that citrus flavor, it's tart, it's very, makes people's eyes sometimes water or their mouths go a little bit funny as they are doing that. So life can be a little bit like that too. It can give us a bad taste in the mouth or a little bit weird sensation and so forth. The thing here is, what can we do with that? If life gives us lemons, it's time to get tough. As I said before, step up, show up, do what you need to do to move forward to lead the change as you do that. But here's the scenario. If life gives us lemons, what can you do with it? Could you turn around and make lemonade? Could you turn around and take those lemons and create something that's beautiful, create something that's fantastic, create something that's going to be of value for others? You see, that's where that second part of where we are going next. And what do we mean by get tough? What do we mean by that? Well, what you notice is that in my intro to the podcast, I talk about certain things in relation to executive excellence. And these are the words, and I'm just going to read it out to you again. The purpose of the show is taking our listeners' leadership to another level by finding their balance between executive excellence and personal well-being through stories that inspire real change. So it's not just about you being an excellent executive or having that kind of sort of skill set and knowledge and experience and so forth, but it's also your personal well-being side of things as well. And so that's what I want to talk to you about too, about the get tough piece, which is about resilience. See, resilience is key to us to be able to handle or cope with things that are thrown at us. Well, when things are thrown at us, then what can you do to cope and handle? And so when life gives us lemons, what are we like? How do we handle that? What is our attitude like? And what do we do to move forward? Some people just freeze. Some people don't react well. And others thrive on things and situations like this. Have you ever heard the saying before about water off a duck's back? Why do they say that? What's quite funny here, team, is that recently I've been doing some workshops, and for some reason when I was using that analogy, water off a duck's back, I actually was saying water off a duck's buck, and I was just getting some of the letters the wrong way around. But at the end of the day here, what does that saying mean to us? Well, what it means is that ducks, with their feathers, have a protective layer, oil, whatever it is on their feathers. So then when water falls on it, then that water will actually just fall off it. It doesn't get affected. It doesn't get drenched, doesn't sort of carry that water with them. And so what it means is that if they have a protective layer, then things will just fall off. With you being resilient, if you can build that layer around you, if you can build that environment, that whole lifestyle around you, that when things are thrown at you, when life does give you lemons, it's like water off a duck's back. It just flows off. Now, that's easy for me to say, and it doesn't mean that I'm saying that you can just sort of fob things off, because it takes time to build resilience. It takes experience and so forth. But what's really interesting here is that just know that if you are resilient, you are going to be able to handle things. Now, it's not going to be easy though, because there will be times whereby you are throwing lemons and it's going to be very difficult. But it's what you can do to help yourself move forward, which is going to be really key for you. Do you have to be resilient? That's an interesting question. Do I have to be resilient? Well, not always. Sometimes you might just need to turn around and say, this sucks. This is hard. We're not saying you have to be perfect and you have to be resilient. Some people try and do that, but they're not authentic with it as well. And so it's quite false, and they get caught out later in the sense that it comes back and bites them. It comes back and catches up with them, which is really interesting. So how can you build resilience? Well, let's talk about something here. Our conscious mind and subconscious mind. So there's conscious mind, what's in our brain or in our minds right now, and our subconscious, which is going in the background, and we're taking certain things in life. But I want to talk about our thoughts, our emotions, our actions, which produces results. Our thoughts. See, we are bombarded in our conscious mind by the news, by people telling us things, by people being around people, all sorts of things, social media, the whole lot. We're being bombarded right now with the whole of stuff, right? That influences our thoughts. Now, it also affects our subconscious as well. But those things are bombarding us do actually influence in the way that we think. The second one is around emotions. You see, our thoughts affect our emotions, and our emotions will actually be in a way whereby we could get quite wound up or we could be quite calm depending on how we are with things. What I always find that's really interesting here is around the emotions, is that we should call out our emotions. You know what? I'm not happy, or I'm sad, or I'm energized. So emotions are whereby we actually can call those out. If we can call them out, then we put it out on the table. Then we know how to address those things, and we know what to do with them. We may not actually know what to do with them, as I just said, but at least we know how we can address them now, and we can start looking at them to find a way to address them. So number one was around our thoughts. Number two is our emotions. So our thoughts affect our emotions affect our actions. And we do certain things, whether it be good or bad. Whether it be something that we shouldn't have done, but we said it, we did it. All those kind of things are affected by our actions, which actually produces our results. Things that we may want to do and things we may not want to do. So here's a scenario. You wake up in the morning. You get up. You're not probably in the right frame of mind as we say it. You stub your toe on the edge of the bed. Ouch, that hurts. Then you hobble. You get ready to go to work. As you're driving to work, you're being cut off in the traffic by somebody. Some lunatic just cuts you off. Then you get to work and you spill coffee on your shirt, on your blouse. And then somebody says good morning to you and you just snap at them. Now, that person's not their fault. They just said good morning. But what's happened is that all these different things are going through our mind, our thinking, our emotions, and our actions, which then causes and produces results. Some of you may have just got an email from your boss. That could be quite difficult. Some of you may have got an email from your boss that was a fantastic feedback, recognition kind of email. So you're in a different frame of mind. So what we find is that our thoughts affect our emotions, which affect our actions, which produces results. So if we can turn around and start looking at our thoughts, our thinking, that could also help us being resilient as well. So number one would be our thoughts, which affect our emotions, actions, and produce results. Number two is exercise. Hey team, go out and exercise. And it's the personal well-being side that I'm talking about. If you can get into a gym, great. If you can't, go for a walk at least half an hour a day. Just get out of your desk. For those of you who are working from home at the moment in a lockdown, if you can get out and do walks, please go ahead and do that, because you need to get out and get some action happening, some activity, to get the blood flowing, to get some oxygen into you, rather than sitting at your desk all day, day in, day out. And a lot of you are finding that quite difficult. Number three is experience. And what I mean by experience means that we will go through things in life that will build our resilience. So in other words, we have another layer, and then another layer, and another layer, because of all these experiences that we have. What we find is that as we go through things in life and we have different experiences, both positive and negative experiences, they always will set us up for the future. Number four, reflection. Hey, take time out to learn from things that you've done, whether it's from the experiences, whether it's from the thoughts, the actions, the emotions, and which produce results. Always learn from what you do. I find what's quite interesting here is that people don't take time out to reflect. Reflecting is thinking time, stepping back from where you are every day, day in and day out, going from email to email, meeting to meeting. It's actually taking some time out to reflect and think about things. Leaders aren't taking enough time to think strategically, to think full stop. I'm going to encourage you to take some time out to think. Half an hour, a week. That's all. Just take some time out to think about things. Sleep, 7 to 8 hours, good quality sleep. Please make sure you are getting enough sleep as well. And then water, 3 to 5 liters of water a day. Water helps you with your brain. You're staying hydrated, but also helping your brain function and also helping things flush. Especially if you're not exercising enough, especially if you're sitting at home, you're in lockdown, things like that. It's not good. So drink water, please. And yes, it does mean you're going to need to visit the bathroom a lot more. Number 7, regular breaks. Take regular breaks. For those of you who have got digital devices like watches and things like that, they can actually tell you to stand, tell you to get out there and get moving. What I find really, really funny is how much lack of action, the lack of action that we do when for a lot of us, we're working from home. For a lot of us, when we're busy, we're stressed, we don't do a lot of activity. So our steps will be really poor. The number of steps you could be around 1,500 for the whole day, where we should be around at least 10,000 for the day. And so I'm going to encourage you not to go out and buy these devices. If you've got one, great. And if you've got one, use it, because these devices will help you stay focused and disciplined and consistent on what you need to do going forward. Lunchtime, please take a break at lunchtime, half an hour, an hour. Some people go and buy their lunch and they go and sit at their desk and they continue to work. That's not healthy. Make sure you have your lunch, go for a walk, get going, get some activity again. Number 8, breathing. Don't forget to breathe. Don't forget to take some belly breaths. Breathing will actually help you calm things down and help you be in control. So those are some areas whereby I talked about in relation to helping you be more resilient and helping you to get tough. Getting tough with yourself, getting tough in the sense that you're getting stronger, resilient, being able to handle things as things are being thrown at you. In other words, when life's giving you some lemons. Team, make lemonade. Go ahead and grab the lemons and make lemonade. Do something with it. Your attitude, the way you react, and number 2, where you're going next. Turn it into a positive if you can. Get tough. Look for those opportunities. Stay safe and look after yourself. What you can do with lemons is amazing. What you choose to do or decide to do with lemons is going to be critical. It's going to be key for you. When life sometimes gives you lemons, get tough. Do something with it. Make it happen. Listeners, great to have you here on the show with me today. And what we as leaders know to be true is that change is constant. Change is incredibly scary, especially with the unknown, the unfamiliar territory. It's time to adapt in our fast-moving world when leadership is changing. Hey, look out for the episodes as they've been released. Download them, have a listen, put a review, a rating. Let your friends, your family, your network know about the Leadership is Changing podcast. If there's any feedback you'd like to give me on the show, or if there are any questions you have for my guests when I'm interviewing them, or if you have a question for me on the Ask Denis freestyle episode, feel free to send me an email, dennis@leadingchangepartners.com. Hey, listeners, don't forget to check out the Facebook group, Leadership is Changing. We look forward to seeing you there. Until next time, bye for now.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Leadership is Changing with your host, Denis Giannoutsas. Each week, we and our guests provide information and insights through exploring leading change, inspiring executives and leaders to adapt and lead a bigger game in a fast-moving world.